Oh, this is so cool. I didn't even know it did that.
Hey, Androids already had that feature.
Okay, nice. All right, good for you. Ooh, I like this too. That's awesome.
You idiot. Androids had that for years.
Okay, like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Are you saying I should buy an Android instead?
Yeah.
Do you have iMessage? Do you have AirDrop? Do you get at least 6 years of software support?
But
Do you retain the resale value? No thanks then. Enjoy Material You over in Depreciation Land.
I can't believe someone else doesn't care about the same things that I care about.
Let's begin. So leading up to Dub Dub, the thing I was most excited for was features I didn't know I needed. Apple has a good way every single year of surprising me with the new version of iOS by always introducing things that I didn't think I was gonna end up liking, but end up liking quite a bit. And there were even some things Apple didn't talk about in their event that I wanted to highlight, and I've been running the developer beta on my main device because I also like to live dangerously. And there's lots of things I've been enjoying just within the first 24 hours. And yes, for the record, considering it's a developer beta on day one, it's actually surprisingly stable. You know, there's little UI bugs here and there, and it's obviously not perfect, but nothing has gone cataclysmically wrong, or I haven't had any forced shutdowns or any massive issues or that kind of thing. So yeah, I put it on my main, I don't really care. I'm having fun with it. So for one, Face ID on the iPhone 13 series works in landscape. So I talked about this in the recap yesterday, but at least according to Mac rumors, this only appears to be working on the latest iPhone 13 series, which sadly means yes, even the iPhone 12 lineup, which is not that old, can't seem to support Face ID in landscape. So this could potentially be Apple doing one of those things where they restrict a software feature to the newest iPhone just so that there's more reasons to get that iPhone. But considering they didn't brag about it on stage, I think it's more likely a limitation with the hardware. Either an arrangement of the true depth camera system makes it a lot harder with the old-fashioned notch, and it's a lot easier with the new notch, or it's possible that maybe the A15 chip has some extra neural core enhancement that can handle landscape Face ID, and the A14 chip just happens to be missing that. So it's a cool feature nonetheless, and especially when you use your phone in bed and you're kind of used to orientating your head in kind of bizarre places, having it work in landscape is really, really nice, although unfortunately still does not work upside down. I know so many of you do that. But the lock screen customizations, of course, that's the most noticeable big change everyone's talking about, are pretty nifty. I'll have to admit they seemed a lot more customizable when they unveiled them. I was led to believe that these little bottom toggles could be changed, and unfortunately you still cannot, which annoys me because I can set off the flashlight accidentally all the time. And also you can, you know, swipe right to activate the camera, but they still have a camera button on top of that. It's cool that you can see your other device's battery percentage now straight from the lock screen, whether it's your AirPods or your Apple Watch, but I still wish if you're gonna show battery percentage of other devices right from the lock screen, it'd be nice to kind of throw the community a bone because people have been asking for the battery percentage to come back for years. I'm not saying I would have this option turned on per se, but I would like that to be a little toggle so that, you know, you could clean up the top icons if you wanted to, and you would know the exact battery percentage without having to check Control Center. There is a lot of different fonts to choose from and a lot of depth effects, which are nice, but you kind of run out of this customization freedom pretty quickly. You essentially have one little tab for widgets, which are fairly limited right now on day one. Hopefully third-party devs take advantage of that. And it's nice that you can actually have like other time zones listed alongside your time. Having weather data, activity data, all that kind of stuff is very useful and fun, but it's probably nowhere near as customizable as a lot of people think it's going to be. It's pretty much 3 columns, and Apple even took a step back in some customization, whereas before, you know, you could set a lock screen wallpaper and a home screen wallpaper. There's actually a lot of people that rely on their, you know, custom iOS looking skin to have different wallpaper between the lock screen and home screen, but now they're interlocked. They're the same thing. That may throw off your home screen setup for a lot of people once you update to iOS 16, and that may be quite upsetting to many of you who want the new features but don't want to abandon having a separate lock screen to home screen. Hopefully they change that in future updates. But the other change you may not like is that live live photos because, you know, now when you hold down on the lock screen, it activates, you know, more lock screen customization options to choose from. Some of you may be thinking, how do you get your live photos to animate now from the lock screen? Well, at this point, it seems like they just got rid of that entirely. So if you enjoyed kind of messing around with your lock screen and holding it down and watching the animation, that seems to be gone. So we got lock screen customization and widgets and stuff, but at what cost? Personally, I think it's worth it just because it looks so clean and fresh to have, but this is by far not my favorite iOS 16 feature, which I'll save for the end of the video. But in my wish list, I was asking for a dedicated AirPods app because I thought it was silly that we had to jump through settings and Bluetooth and hit the I. And they didn't give us an app, but they kind of compromised and now have a little dedicated tab right underneath your Apple ID as soon as you open settings. So that saves some time and gives you all of your AirPods Pro controls. I appreciate them adding that, as well as actually requiring another biometric unlock for recently deleted pictures or a hidden album. I know a lot of people were asking for another layer of security on top of certain photo albums. I personally am still in favor of there being less passcodes required, like if you're at home and it can register that you're in a place with people you trust, you don't need to use Face ID every single time, but this is kind of leaning in the opposite direction, so you have to unlock Face ID twice to access certain albums. But for people who maybe live with others that they don't trust as much, this could absolutely be a fairly useful feature. They also updated the Stocks app so that you could have multiple different lists, so you can have a category just for, I don't know, stocks you're watching versus stocks you own versus just EV stocks. You know, you can have separate lists that you switch between and even separate widgets that list different types of stocks, which is kind of useful. So the other thing they didn't talk about on stage, but is a pretty massive difference from before, is you can finally turn on taptic feedback for your keyboard. So I know it's been on Android for a long time, but you can go into sound and haptics, and when you go to the keyboard section, there's another toggle, and now whenever you type, you get a little bit of feedback in response. There were apps years ago that tried to emulate this, but they were usually delayed and didn't work super reliably. This one works flawlessly, and because the iPhone has a great taptic engine, it's very satisfying, and it's an easy way to tell that you're on the newer version of iOS because, yeah, they've been sitting on this feature for years. I don't know what took them so long, but now that it's there, I appreciate it greatly. I've already run into a few instances where I had to remind myself, oh yeah, I can edit text now. Like, I was texting someone and I made a mistake, and I immediately sent a follow-up text to correct myself, you know, with the asterisks and everything, and then realized, oh, wait a minute, I can edit this text, which I'm very grateful that feature is there now. I'm going to use it a lot. However, you should be aware that if you're texting people that are not on iOS 16, literally nothing changes. You can't unsend a message, you can't edit a message, it won't tell them that you're trying to edit the message. All of those features just don't work on iOS 15 or earlier, so don't go start texting everybody mean things and then deleting the text like 2 seconds later, because if they have iOS 15, which most people do right now, they're just gonna get the text and you can't take it away. iMessage text editing and unsending messages is gonna be cool and kind of helpful once everybody gets on board iOS 16, but if you're texting an iPhone 7 or older, they're never gonna get the unsend or edit text features. So just be advised, you can't get away with everything because Apple discontinued support for the iPhone after this point. And now all of you guys are realizing that the iPhone boxes are chronological. I was hoping that someone would notice, but fine, I have to bring it up myself. Okay, whatever. Let's talk about my favorite iOS 16 feature by far, and it has completely blown my mind, and it's going to save me tons of time for my job. The subject highlighting. I know they talked about this in the keynote, and they kind of glossed over it. It was easy to miss, and it sounded kind of cool, but what's spooky is how insanely well it works. Not just on people, but on objects. Essentially, any picture. It doesn't have to be a picture from your iPhone. It doesn't have to be a new photo that you just downloaded today. It can be pictures from years ago. You can just scroll back, look at an old picture, download any picture off the web, and you just kind of push and hold on the subject of the image, and iOS will instantly kind of lift it up out of the photo and turn it into a transparent PNG, which you can very easily drag into a photo editing application, which, in case you weren't aware, this is 90% of why I have an iPad. It's trying to lift subjects out of pictures or mask out backgrounds for video thumbnails. Whenever I tell you guys that I use my iPad for thumbnails, it's because the Apple Pencil, the larger display, that helps me mask out subjects and objects and put them in video thumbnails, and it's a bit harder to do that with your iPhone, so that's that's what I use the iPad for. But now, on any device, by the way, they rolled out this feature for the Mac as well, you can just find any kind of subject in any image and lift it, and it masks it insanely good. This is going to compete with Magic Erase, and this is going to compete with transparent background apps. This was basically the only reason I bought Affinity Photo, was because I wanted a short and simple way with my iPad to Magic Erase backgrounds and just lift objects off of pictures and add them to my thumbnails. They literally saved me hours and hours of time by putting in this feature, and it's shockingly good. Like, it's able to capture a crazy amount of detail and mask out tons of photos that aren't even shot on iPhone. And the crazy thing is it even works with videos. I don't even know if they brought that up during the event, but you can be watching a video of some kind and just pause the video and be like, this is the frame I want to mask out this subject. So you tap on the subject and boom, it just pulls it out of the video, and you could drag that into your photo editing app of choice. If you want to make emotes for your Discord server and that kind of thing, this is going to make that 1,000,000% easier. It's not that this technology didn't exist before, it's just never been so accessible. I've never really seen it baked into a default photo application like this before, and yes, I'm going to use the crap out of it. In fact, I'm now starting to wonder if I could just do all of my thumbnails off of my phone now, because it's going to be so easy to just pick up subjects and add them to my photo editing apps, and I don't have to spend much time masking or touching up objects and subjects or using Affinity Photo like I used to with my iPad. And yeah, I've got some extended thoughts on iPadOS 16. I'll save that for another video, but so far, hugely in love and very, very happy with iOS 16. Another noteworthy mention is that you can finally view Wi-Fi passwords now through settings. Literally had to reset my Wi-Fi last year because I couldn't remember what I set up the Wi-Fi password to be, and I was connected to the Wi-Fi on my devices, but there was no way to view what the password was. So thanks, Apple, for finally adding that. What are your favorite iOS 16 features so far? All that good stuff. Let me know what you're thinking down below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you all in the next one.